Rebecca stopped beside Daniel's table, glanced at the exit, and said, "You can leave if you want." Daniel Carter looked up from a $7 cup of black coffee, not quite sure whether he had heard her right. She stood there with one hand wrapped around her phone, the screen lighting up again against her palm. Rebecca Collins, 39, CEO of Collins Regional Foods. The woman Kevin had spent an entire week insisting Daniel should meet. She wore a dark green dress, simple earrings, and the expression of someone already braced for a disappointment that hadn't happened yet. Daniel rose from his chair. "I just paid $7 for this coffee." Rebecca blinked. "So?" He glanced at the cup. "I'm not leaving before I finish it." For half a second, nothing moved. Then the corner of her mouth twitched. "Barely. That's your reason for staying?" "It's the most immediate one." That almost got a laugh. Almost. Daniel pulled out the chair across from him, then stepped back and let her decide whether to take it. She did. Slowly. Her phone buzzed again. She turned it face down. "Kevin said you were funny." "Kevin says a lot of things." "That's true." A server brought water. Rebecca thanked her, opened the menu, then closed it before reading a single line. Daniel noticed her eyes move over him. Blue button-down, clean jeans, brown boots, hands scrubbed after work, though a faint gray line of grease still sat near one thumbnail. "You came straight from work?" she asked. "Went home first. Changed shirts." "What do you do exactly?" "Fleet maintenance. City buses." "You're a mechanic." "Senior fleet maintenance technician, if we're trying to impress people." That got the laugh this time. Small but real. Rebecca looked down at the menu again. "Kevin just said mechanic." "That sounds more normal." "And single father." Daniel nodded. "That part's accurate too." "How old?" 11. His face changed when he said it. Not dramatically, just softer around the eyes. Rebecca caught it. "Girl. Maya. Where is she tonight?" "With my sister. Probably eating something I told her not to." Rebecca smiled, but it faded quickly. She looked toward the front door again. Daniel had seen that once already, now twice. Like leaving was still sitting beside her as an option. He didn't ask about it. Instead, he took a sip of coffee. "Kevin told me you run a food distribution company. That's one way to make 600 employees sound like a warehouse and a clipboard. Is it inaccurate?" She studied him. Not entirely. Another buzz from her phone. This time she ignored it without looking. A few seconds passed. Around them, silverware clicked. Someone laughed too loudly near the bar. Rebecca's shoulders stayed tight. Daniel could feel her waiting for something. A comment. A question. Maybe the moment he finally became the man she had expected when she walked in. She folded her hands on the table. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." Her eyes stayed on his now. "Did Kevin show you my picture before tonight?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "Yeah." Rebecca's fingers stopped moving. Rebecca watched Daniel for a long second, waiting for the sentence that usually came next. Something about how pictures did not matter. Something about personality being more important than looks. Or worse, a compliment delivered so carefully it sounded like charity. Daniel gave her none of those things. He took another sip of coffee. "Kevin showed me one picture." Rebecca kept her eyes on him. "And?" Daniel set the cup down. "And I came." Her expression did not change, but her shoulders loosened just enough for him to notice. "That is all. Was there supposed to be a test?" "Usually there is." Daniel studied her face, then glanced at the menu. "I am more worried about whether this place charges $14 for mashed potatoes." Rebecca stared at him. Then she laughed. A real laugh this time, quick and surprised. "They charge 16. That feels personal." The server returned, and they ordered dinner. Rebecca chose grilled salmon. Daniel ordered meatloaf, then ignored the little smile she tried to hide. "What?" he asked. "Nothing." "That was definitely something. I just expected you to order something more interesting. I fix city buses for a living. Meatloaf is about as adventurous as I get on a Friday." Rebecca folded her napkin across her lap. "Is that what you always wanted to do?" The question came out too quickly. Daniel looked at her. She heard it after she said it. Not curiosity. Assumption. "You mean, did I have bigger plans?" Rebecca lowered her eyes for half a second. That sounded bad. A little. He did not smile this time. She could have changed the subject. Instead, she stayed with the discomfort. "I am sorry." Daniel nodded once. "Okay." That simple acceptance seemed to bother her more than anger would have. He did not punish her. He did not make her work for forgiveness. He just continued. "I started at the transit garage when I was 25. Thought I would stay a year. Turns out I like fixing things people depend on. Rebecca listened. How many buses? Enough that I never want to hear another brake warning light in my personal life. She smiled. Daniel leaned back slightly. My team keeps vehicles moving for people who need to get to work, school, doctor appointments. It is not glamorous. It matters. Rebecca looked at the faint grease still caught beside his thumbnail. She had noticed it when she sat down. At first, she had filed it away with the boots, the mechanic job, the modest shirt. Now it looked different. Not evidence of where he had failed to climb. Evidence of a life he respected. I did exactly what I hate people doing to me, she said quietly. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That is a serious sentence for before dinner. I judged you before I knew you. He let the silence sit between them. You caught it. Rebecca looked at him. Does that make it better? It makes the next thing possible. Before she could ask what he meant, Daniel's phone lit up beside his coffee. Kevin Monroe. Daniel looked at the name on the screen and did not reach for the phone right away. Rebecca noticed. Kevin? She asked. Daniel nodded. Yeah. The phone buzzed again. Then once more. Daniel picked it up, expecting something harmless. A joke about the restaurant. Maybe a question about how the date was going. The first message said, still there? The second came a few seconds later. Told you she was not exactly your type. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then the third message appeared. At least she is loaded. He stared at the screen longer than he meant to. Across the table, Rebecca went still. She had spent years learning how to read small changes in people. A pause before a smile. Eyes moving away. A phone suddenly turned face down. She knew the moment a room had changed around her. What did he say? Daniel locked the screen. Nothing worth repeating. Rebecca gave a quiet breath through her nose. That means it was about me. Daniel did not answer fast enough. Her hand moved toward the purse hanging beside her chair. Rebecca, do not. She looked at him, and the softness that had begun to appear over dinner was gone. Please do not protect me from something you did not say. Daniel held her gaze. Then he unlocked the phone and slid it across the table. Rebecca read the messages. Her face barely moved. That was what struck him. No outrage. No dramatic reaction. Just a small tightening around her mouth, like someone hearing a song she had already heard too many times. She returned the phone. Of course. Daniel frowned. Of course what? Rebecca reached for her coat. Of course this is what this was. What do you mean? A story for Kevin tomorrow. The mechanic and the fat CEO. See how long he lasts. See whether I notice. Daniel sat very still. That is not why I came. Rebecca stood. Maybe not. But that is why he sent you. Daniel did not grab her arm. He did not tell her she was overreacting. He did not ask her to sit down. He looked at his phone, opened Kevin's message thread, and typed slowly enough that Rebecca could see he was not acting on impulse. She is not the joke. Neither am I. Do not set people up like this again. He pressed send. Then he blocked the number. Rebecca stared at him. You did not have to do that. Daniel placed the phone beside his coffee. Yes, I did. You are going to lose a friend over a woman you met 40 minutes ago. He shook his head. No, his voice stayed low. I found out something about a friend I already had. Rebecca's fingers remained on the sleeve of her coat. Daniel looked back at the table instead of at her, giving her room to leave if that was what she wanted. The server passed with 2 plates meant for another table. Somewhere near the bar, someone laughed. Rebecca stood there another few seconds. Then, without a word, she slowly took off her coat, placed it over the back of the chair, and sat down again. For a few seconds, neither of them touched the food when it arrived. Rebecca kept her hands in her lap. Daniel let the silence stay where it was. He did not rush to make it comfortable. That, more than the message, unsettled her. Most people filled silence when they got nervous. Daniel seemed willing to let it breathe. Rebecca finally picked up her fork. You are not going to say anything? Daniel looked at her. About Kevin? About me sitting back down. You sat back down. She almost smiled. That is your whole analysis? Pretty much. Rebecca shook her head and took a bite of salmon. Daniel cut into his meatloaf. For the first time that evening, they ate without performing. No careful first date questions. No checking for the right answer. Just the soft scrape of silverware and the low hum of the restaurant around them. Then Rebecca's phone started vibrating against the table. Once, twice, a third time. She glanced at the screen, exhaled, and answered. Her voice changed instantly. Move the Dayton delivery to the morning route. No, do not call the driver back in tonight. We can cover it at 6. She listened, asked 2 short questions, then ended the call. Daniel waited until she put the phone down. Do people ever let you stop being the boss? Rebecca looked at him. The question landed differently than the others. Not often. Sounds tiring. She gave a small laugh, but it disappeared quickly. It is. Daniel nodded and went back to his dinner. Rebecca watched him. That is it. What else do you want me to say? I do not know. She turned her phone face down again. Usually people tell me I should delegate more. You probably should. Her eyes narrowed. Daniel took another bite. But you did not ask me. Rebecca laughed before she could stop herself. It was louder this time. Warmer. You are very annoying. Maya says the same thing. Your daughter. Daniel reached for his phone, hesitated, then opened a photograph. Maya stood beside a crooked model of the solar system, wearing safety goggles too large for her face. Rebecca leaned closer. She is adorable. She is expensive. Rebecca smiled. Her mother must have your sense of humor. Daniel's thumb stayed on the edge of the phone. The pause was small, but Rebecca noticed it. Her mother died 6 years ago. Rebecca's face changed immediately. Daniel, I am sorry. Thank you. He did not look away from the picture. Her name was Laura. Rebecca waited. She did not ask how. She did not say she understood. After a moment, Daniel continued on his own. For a while after that, I tried to do everything for Maya. Every problem. Every decision. I thought that was what protecting her looked like. Rebecca listened without moving. Then one of her teachers told me if I never let her struggle, she would never learn she could handle hard things. Daniel smiled faintly. Turns out raising a kid means learning when not to fix something. Rebecca looked down at her folded hands. That sounds harder than running a company. Depends on the day. They both smiled. Later, outside the restaurant, Daniel stopped beside the curb instead of walking Rebecca to her car without asking. I had a good time, he said. Rebecca studied his face, almost suspicious of the simplicity. You do not have to say that. Daniel held her gaze. I know. For the first time that night, Rebecca had no prepared answer. 3 days passed without a message. Rebecca told herself that was normal. They had gone to dinner once. Nothing had been promised. Still, every time her phone lit up, her eyes moved to it before she could stop them. Monday evening, Daniel finally sent a photograph. A dead tomato plant sat outside a hardware store, brown leaves hanging over the rim of a plastic pot. Under it, he had written, "Found your business model." Rebecca stared at the screen, then laughed alone in her kitchen. She typed back, "Coffee Saturday?" His answer came a minute later. "No matchmaking? No, Kevin." Then yes. Coffee turned into tacos the next week. Tacos turned into a walk along the river. Nothing moved fast. Daniel still worked early mornings at the transit garage. Rebecca still answered too many calls. Maya still came first. 6 weeks after that first dinner, Rebecca met her at a community garden near Westwood where Daniel volunteered twice a month. Maya wore a gray hoodie, bright sneakers, and gardening gloves that were too big for her hands. She looked Rebecca up and down once. Not rudely, just carefully. "You are Rebecca." "I am. Dad said you kill tomato plants." Rebecca looked at Daniel. "That is what you told your child about me." Daniel kept pulling weeds. "I believe in honesty." Maya smiled despite herself. That was enough for a beginning. Rebecca did not bring a gift. She did not offer Maya concert tickets or anything expensive. She grabbed a spare pair of gloves and helped move compost instead. Maya asked what being a chief executive officer actually meant. Rebecca answered without making it sound impressive. Mostly making decisions and then answering for them. Maya considered that. Sounds like being a parent. Daniel glanced over. Do not encourage her. By late morning, dirt covered Rebecca's knees and one of Maya's shoelaces had come loose. Rebecca crouched and held the watering can while Maya retied it herself. Daniel noticed that too. She had not rushed in to do it for her. A few garden beds away, 2 older kids walked past. One looked toward Rebecca and whispered something. The other laughed. Rebecca heard the word huge. Her hands stopped around the watering can. It was only a second. Then Maya turned. "She can't hear you." The boys went quiet. Maya did not raise her voice. Do not make somebody's body the joke. One of them muttered an apology and kept walking. Daniel had started toward them, but stopped when he heard his daughter. He did not praise her like she had done something extraordinary. He only touched her shoulder as he passed and said, "Thank you." Rebecca looked at him differently then. At the restaurant, she had wondered whether his kindness was something reserved for a first date, something polished for a woman he wanted to impress. But this was not about her. Maya had learned it before Rebecca ever walked into their lives. On the drive home, Rebecca kept thinking about that. That evening, she called Daniel instead of texting. "There is a food bank fundraiser in a few weeks," she said. "My company is helping sponsor it." Daniel waited. Rebecca took a breath. "Would you come with me?" Daniel almost said no to the fundraiser. Not because he did not want to go, but because it fell on a Thursday after a full shift at the transit garage. By the time he reached the event, he had been awake since before 5. He had changed his shirt in the employee locker room, but a faint line of grease still sat along the side of one thumb. Rebecca noticed it when he walked in. She also noticed he looked tired. "You could have canceled," she said. Daniel handed her a paper cup of coffee from the refreshment table. "You asked me to come. That is not the same as ordering you to come." "Good. I already have a supervisor." She smiled and took the cup. The fundraiser was held in a community center near downtown Cincinnati. Folding tables lined the room. Local restaurants had donated food. Volunteers moved boxes toward the storage area, while business owners talked near a small stage. Rebecca knew half the room. Daniel knew almost nobody. She did not drag him from introduction to introduction. She stayed beside him when she could and let him step away when work conversations became too technical or too boring. That mattered more than she realized. About 40 minutes in, a silver-haired man approached them while checking his phone. "Rebecca, good to see you." "Thomas." She turned toward Daniel. "This is..." Thomas Reed barely looked up. He pulled a set of car keys from his pocket and held them toward Daniel. "Could you bring the car around to the side entrance? I will be leaving in 10. Daniel looked at the keys, then at Thomas. He understood what had happened before Rebecca finished taking a breath. For 1 second, she hesitated. Daniel saw that too. Then Rebecca reached out, took the keys from Thomas, and placed them back in his hand. "Thomas, this is Daniel Carter." Thomas finally looked at him. Rebecca kept her voice even. "He is here with me." The color shifted in Thomas's face. "Oh, Daniel, I am sorry. I assumed..." "We are good," Daniel said. No edge. No smile either. Just enough to close the moment without pretending it had not happened. Thomas apologized again and moved away. Rebecca stared after him. "I should have said something faster." Daniel took a sip of coffee. "You did say something." I hesitated. He looked at her. "People do." Rebecca frowned. "That is generous." "No, it is accurate." He paused. "What matters is what you do after." She looked down at the coffee in her hands. Months earlier, Daniel had been the one sitting across from a careless assumption. Tonight, the choice had been hers. She had not handled it perfectly, but he had not demanded perfection from her. He had only noticed what she chose next. Later, while Daniel helped a volunteer move a stack of empty crates, Rebecca's operations director stopped beside her. "We are still getting nowhere on that fleet operations manager search," he said. "Plenty of resumes. Not much real field experience." Rebecca glanced across the room at Daniel, then back at her director. For the first time, an idea formed that felt practical, generous, and completely reasonable. She had no idea yet that Daniel would see it very differently. The idea followed Rebecca for nearly 2 weeks before she said anything. She checked the position requirements herself. 17 years of fleet maintenance experience, supervisory responsibility, safety compliance, vendor coordination. Daniel met almost every requirement on paper. By the time she invited him to dinner at her townhouse, she had convinced herself this was not personal. It was practical, fair, maybe even overdue. Daniel noticed the folder beside her plate before he noticed the food. "That looks suspicious." Rebecca smiled. "It is not. That is exactly what suspicious folders say." She handed it to him. "Just read it." Daniel opened the folder. Fleet Operations Manager, Collins Regional Foods. He scanned the responsibilities first, then the salary range. His expression did not change much, but Rebecca saw his thumb stop against the edge of the paper. "This pays almost twice what I make." "I know. And your company has been trying to fill it?" "For months." Daniel read another page. "You think I can do this?" "I know you can do most of it already. The rest can be learned." Rebecca leaned back slightly. "You have 17 years of experience. You understand maintenance schedules, safety, crews, parts, budgets." "Daniel, this is not charity." He closed the folder. "I cannot take it." Rebecca blinked. "You have not even asked about the benefits." "I saw the benefits." "Then what is the problem?" Daniel rested both hands on the table. "You are." Her face changed. "Excuse me. Not you as a person, He exhaled. You are the chief executive officer. Rebecca folded her arms. And we are seeing each other. That does not make you unqualified. I did not say it did. Then I do not understand. Daniel looked down at the folder, then back at her. If I take this job, every person who reports to me gets to wonder whether I earned it or whether I got it because I am dating you. Rebecca's jaw tightened. People will think whatever they want. Maybe, but I would still have to work inside that question every day. So you are turning down a better job because someone might talk? I am turning it down because I do not want the person I care about to also control my paycheck. The words sat between them. Rebecca's arms slowly dropped. Daniel continued carefully. I trust you. That is not the issue. It sounds like the issue. No. The issue is that this changes the balance between us. Rebecca looked toward the dark window. Her phone buzzed on the counter behind her. She ignored it. You know what this sounds like, she said. What? Pride. Daniel waited. You think accepting help makes you less of a man. His face tightened, not with anger, but disappointment. No, he spoke quietly. I think you are used to fixing problems with things you can give people. Rebecca went still. Daniel regretted the sharpness the second he heard it aloud, but he did not take it back. I did not ask you what I wanted, he added. You decided what would be better for me. Rebecca looked at the folder, then at him. I was trying to help. I know. That somehow made it worse. She stood and carried her untouched plate toward the kitchen. Daniel did not follow. When he left 10 minutes later, neither of them hugged. Rebecca did not call that night. She did not call the next morning. By the third day, Daniel understood that saying the right thing had not made it painless. For 3 days, Rebecca said nothing. Daniel did not chase her. He went to work, picked Maya up from school, made dinner, checked homework, and tried not to look at his phone every 10 minutes. On Wednesday evening, the doorbell rang while Maya sat at the kitchen table fighting with a spelling worksheet. Daniel opened the door and found Rebecca on the porch. No laptop, no work bag. Her phone stayed inside her coat pocket. Can we talk? She asked. Daniel stepped aside. Rebecca walked in, then stopped when she saw Maya. I can go upstairs, Maya offered. Daniel shook his head. Finish your homework. Maya looked between them. You both look weird. Rebecca almost smiled. That is fair. Daniel led her into the living room. Rebecca remained standing for a moment before finally sitting on the edge of the couch. You were right. Daniel leaned against the chair across from her. He did not say anything. Rebecca rubbed her thumb across her palm. I saw a problem. I decided I knew the solution. Then I handed it to you like you were supposed to be grateful. Daniel nodded once. Yeah. She looked up. You could make this easier. I could. You are not going to? Probably not. A small laugh escaped her, then disappeared. I hate when people decide what is best for me without asking. And I did exactly that to you. Daniel waited. Rebecca took a breath. I am sorry. Okay. She studied him. That is it. You apologized. You are not going to make me explain it 5 more ways. Would it improve the apology? Rebecca shook her head. No, then we are good. Something in her face softened. Not relief exactly. More like exhaustion finally finding somewhere to sit. From the kitchen, Maya called. Are you done being weird yet? Daniel closed his eyes. Rebecca laughed. Apparently, the tension did not vanish that night. It loosened. That was enough. Over the next several weeks, they found their rhythm again. Coffee before Daniel's Saturday errands. Dinner when Rebecca could leave work on time. Maya, joining them sometimes, choosing not to other times. No one forced anything. Then the photograph appeared. It was nothing dramatic. A local business group posted pictures from the food bank fundraiser on LinkedIn. One showed Rebecca and Daniel standing beside a donation table. Within a day, the comments started. Some asked whether Daniel worked for her. One called him a gold digger. Another joked that money could make anyone attractive. Someone else reduced the whole picture to race, class, and appearances. Rebecca read too many of them before Daniel arrived at her townhouse that evening. Her phone sat in her hand like something heavy. My public relations team can ask them to remove the comments, she said. Daniel took off his jacket. Do you want them removed? Rebecca hesitated. I want people to stop deciding who we are. Daniel sat across from her. We cannot control that. She looked down. I know. He waited. What do you need from me? Rebecca's eyes lifted. Not what should we do? Not what do you want me to fix? Just what do you need? Her voice came quieter. Do not disappear because this gets ugly. Daniel held her gaze. I was not planning to. Rebecca believed him, not because the sentence was beautiful, but because by then she had watched him stay in 100 smaller ways. 14 months after that first dinner, Daniel walked back into Maple and Rye carrying the same kind of black coffee he had complained about the night they met. This time, there were 3 chairs at the table. Maya was already in one of them, trying very hard to look innocent. In front of her sat a small tomato plant in a clay pot. Rebecca arrived a few minutes later and stopped when she saw it. "No," Maya grinned. "Dad says this one is almost impossible to kill." Rebecca looked at Daniel. "You have underestimated me before." Consistently. He pulled out her chair, just as he had on their first night, but the nervous distance between them was gone now. A year had changed the small things. Rebecca no longer checked her phone every time it buzzed. Daniel no longer wondered whether letting someone into his life meant letting go of Laura. Maya had stopped watching Rebecca like a visitor and started saving her a seat without being asked. Nothing about it had happened quickly. There had been school projects, late work days, canceled dinners, small disagreements, apologies, quiet Saturdays, and more than one tomato plant that did not survive. Rebecca had never tried to become Maya's mother. She had simply shown up as Rebecca. Daniel had never tried to become Rebecca's protector. He had simply stayed steady when she needed room to be herself. After dinner, Maya stood and reached for another cookie from the dessert table. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You already had 2. Maya slipped on her jacket. "This feels like an important night." Rebecca turned toward Daniel. "What did you tell her?" "Less than she figured out." Maya walked away, but not far. Daniel reached into his jacket and placed a small box beside his coffee. Rebecca looked at it, then at him. For once, she had no quick answer ready. Daniel opened the box. The ring was simple, new, something he had chosen himself. "That first night," he said, "you told me I could leave." Rebecca smiled, her eyes already shining. "I remember. I am glad I did not." He paused. No speech. No performance. "I do not want to rescue you, Rebecca." She let out a quiet breath. "I do not need you to." Daniel smiled. "Good." He reached across the table and took her hand. "Then maybe we can just keep choosing each other." Rebecca looked over his shoulder. Maya stood near the dessert table pretending not to watch. Rebecca laughed softly. Daniel asked, "Will you marry me?" She looked back at him. "Yes." Maya was beside them a second later, wrapping both arms around them. No one in the restaurant applauded because no one else knew what had just happened. Somehow, that made it better. When they stepped outside, Maya walked between them, talking about school while Rebecca carried the tomato plant against her coat. Daniel listened. Rebecca laughed, and the 3 of them kept walking. Maybe that is the real lesson here. Respect is not ignoring someone's differences, and love is not rescuing them from who they are. It is seeing the whole person without turning their body, job, race, money, or past into the only thing that matters. Daniel and Rebecca changed because they gave each other time, boundaries, honesty, and room to grow. I think kindness becomes powerful when it asks for nothing in return. If this story made you think about the way we judge people before knowing them, share your thoughts in the comments. And if stories about quiet dignity still matter to you, subscribe and stay with us for the next one.